Our second of 4 lessons dealing with acids and bases focuses in on the environmental issue of acid precipitation. First, let's have a look at what defines normal precipitation. This is precipitation, rain, snow, all these kind of things, with a pH of 5.5, which is slightly acidic. On the scale, neutral is 7, 5.5 is a little bit acidic, and it's a little bit acidic because of the presence of H2CO3, which is carbonic acid, and we get that by combining CO2 with H2O. So that's how we get carbonic acid for normal acidity. Acid precipitation is defined as anything with a pH below 4.5, which is 1 full change in pH units, which is a significant or 10 times increase in acidity. Now, most of the fossil fuels that we burn, so coal, oil, and natural gas, so that oil is the source of gasoline and diesel, all of these fuels contain a certain amount of sulfur and nitrogen that's present in the plants that were originally used to make that fossil fuel. When those are burned, they result in acid precipitation. Why? Because sulfur and nitrogen are both nonmetals, and when you burn a nonmetal, you make an acid. The leading sources for this acid precipitation are electricity production, transportation, and what we cluster as industry, which is every plant that makes products that we use. Electricity production historically used an awful lot of coal. Ontario has stopped using coal in their plants, but they are still using mostly natural gas and a little bit of oil. However, in the U.S. Midwest, there's still a fair bit of coal in use, so we still have impacts from that. Transportation, we've reduced the amount of nitrogen and sulfur in our fuels, but there's still more there. And industry has their own issues. Sorry, I forgot to say, moving on in 3, 2, 1. My mistake. So the environmental impacts, we're going to cluster these in 2 areas, and then we'll move on to the human impacts in a few moments. So first, environmental impacts on land. Acid precipitation first corrodes leaves, which directly harms or kills plants. As a result, there's going to be less food and less shelter for the animals, and on a longer term basis, the soils are stripped of nutrients needed by the plants because the acids either chemically attack them or dissolve them and remove them from the soil. So these are things that are happening on the land. The acid precipitation, when it reaches water, it depends on what is surrounding the water. So there's a variety of impacts. Those waterways, lakes, rivers, streams, everything, in contact with the Canadian Shield. The Canadian Shield, the main rock there is granite, and those areas see changes in their acidity, usually making them more and more acidic, and that results in killing the plants and fish. People will look at some of these lakes and say, I don't see why there's a problem. They're beautifully clear. I can see a long way down. If you see a long way down, that means they're usually very acidic and nothing can survive. In contrast, the Great Lakes, our area, has limestone as the rock underneath it. And limestone, what it does is it reacts with the acid precipitation, and so the acidity changes very little. As a result, we don't have the same problems that we have in the Canadian Shield. Now, there are some species that are sensitive to the small changes. Perch and pike, 2 very valuable fishes in the Great Lakes, are sensitive, so if our Great Lakes change a little bit, those are 2 of the species that get hurt the most. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. Now let's look at the human impacts. So back from your grade 9 geography, primary industries, the ones that are directly affected are things like farming, because they're based on the plants and animals, fishing, because obviously the perch and pike, and forestry, because any of the trees, any of those are directly affected, so those primary industries are the first hit. All the secondary industries based on these, so anything to do with processing food, processing fish, doing something to make lumber, all those types of industries, they're just going to see less work because there's less raw materials to work from. Tourism is a big deal. In fact, there are some areas that rely on tourism as their #1 industry in terms of the economic value. Tourism is reduced because many people want a vacation in a natural, unspoiled area, and if you don't have those areas, you just don't have the tourism. Our health, however, is indirectly affected by changes in our food supply. So if you're damaging the farms and the fishing, what's going to happen is we're going to see changes in our food supply, which are going to cause very slow, gradual changes to us. Additional to that, plants are important at cleaning the air for us, so the air we breathe is going to be impacted by changes in acid precipitation. Lastly, acids also have the capacity to corrode metals, paint, all these types of things, and so we're simply going to pay more to maintain everything. And those are the main human impacts. Thanks for watching.